हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू माय चैनल। दिस इज सी ए राखी अग्रवाल। आज का हमारा टॉपिक है इंडियन अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड 19, दैट इज एम्प्लॉयज बेनिफिट पार्ट 2। In the previous discussion, we had discussed about the objective of the standard, scope of the standard, introduction. Then we had discussed about short-term employees benefit, what short-term employees benefit which accrues within 12 months, benefit which is paid to the employee within 12 months, that is in the form of salary, in the form of profit sharing ratios and bonus. In no discounting factor is required, no present value is required for that short term employees benefit. But today we are going to continue this standard with further new concepts, that is post employment benefit. What is post employment benefit? The benefit which is given to the employee after its post employment, that is after its retirement, in the form of gratuity, in the form of superannuation. After completing the service, the employee when retire from the organization, then the organization will give that benefit to the employee in the form of gratuity, in the form of provident fund, in the form of superannuation. So whatever the benefit given to the employee after completing its services, after resignation, that benefit is called a post-employment benefit. These employment benefits established by the established, and it's cover all the entities. It could be a defined benefit plan or defined contribution plan. Generally, post-employment benefit are of two types, that is defined benefit plan and defined contribution plan. Most of the cases, entity has only obligation to make contribution of becoming due. Upon cessation of employee, such employee entity has no obligation to pay benefits earned by such employee in the past years. So in some of the organization, there is a process of giving only the contribution, not the pay, not after retirement anything to the employee. So if any benefit is given to the employee during the period of services in the form of contribution, the two plans are there in post employment benefits given by the entity, that is the defined contribution plan and defined benefit plan. Defined contribution plan is that plan is given by the entity to its employee, and after that there is no liability of the employer, that he will take care of that. Means after cessation, there is no responsibility of the employer. Once he paid, once he contribute that amount to the PF account, the liability of the employer is over. There is no such liability of employer to take care of that amount after a retirement or after the service is over by the employee. So that is the defined contribution plan, that the contribution given by the employer to the employee is defined. There is no such other responsibilities of the employer. Once he deposited that amount of employee to the PF account, the employer's responsibility is over. So that is the defined contribution plan. There are these are paid by the entity as fixed contribution into the fund on behalf of the employee, and will have no further obligation to pay any amount to the employee after post employment. After post employment, defined contribution plan once deposited by the employer on behalf of employee to the fund account, the responsibility of the employer is over. For example, provident fund contribution by the company to the employees provident fund. So EPFO में वो जमा दे देते हैं, एम्प्लॉयर ने जमा दे दिया एम्प्लॉय के बिहाफ में, फिक्स कंट्रीब्यूशन, एम्प्लॉयर का रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी खत्म। अब किसका रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है? उस फंड, प्रोविडेंट फंड का रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है टू पे दैट अमाउंट टू द एम्प्लॉय आफ्टर इट्स रिटायरमेंट। एम्प्लॉयर ने अपने एंड से जमा दे दिया। अब पीएफ फंड का रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी आफ्टर रिटायरमेंट टू पे दैट अमाउंट टू द एम्प्लॉय। एंटिटीज ऑब्लिगेशन क्या है? एंटिटीज ऑब्लिगेशन इतना ही है, इज लिमिटेड टू द अमाउंट ऑफ कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन टू द फंड. नो नीड टू कंट्रीब्यूट इफ फंड एसेट्स आर इनसफिशिएंट टू पे ऑल एम्प्लॉइज बेनिफिट. रिस्क बेयरिंग, एक्चुअरियल रिस्क और इन्वेस्टमेंट. यहाँ पे रिस्क बेयरिंग कैपेसिटी एम्प्लॉय का है. एम्प्लॉयर का रिस्क इतना ही है कि वो अपना एंड से जमा दे दे. अब यहाँ पे रिस्क बेयरिंग कैपेसिटी किसके पास होना चाहिए? एम्प्लॉय के पास में. अगर प्रोविडेंट फंड एट द एंड ऑफ पोस्ट एम्प्लॉयमेंट अगर पैसा नहीं देता है या पैसा डूब जाता है तो कौन बियर करेगा उस रिस्क को? एम्प्लॉय ही बियर करेगा. इन दैट केस एम्प्लॉय अपने रिस्क को खुद बेयर करेगा. सो एक्चुअरियल रिस्क एंड इन्वेस्टमेंट रिस्क दोनों ही रिस्क फॉल्स ऑन द एम्प्लॉय. अकाउंटिंग बहुत स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड अकाउंटिंग है. नो एक्चुअरियल अजम्पशन और डिस्काउंटिंग ऑफ कंट्रीब्यूशन. Actuarial or discounting of contribution is not required in that case. Accounting for defined contribution plans, straightforward accounting. Obligation for each period is determined by the amount to be contributed for that period. मीन्स ऑब्लिगेशन इज डिटरमाइंड कि आप कितने अमाउंट कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हो फॉर दैट पीरियड. एक्चुअरियल assumptions are not required to measure obligation or the expenses. No possibilities, क्योंकि एक्चुअरियल assumption है नहीं, there is no possibilities of actuarial gain or loss. Obligations are measured on an undiscounted basis. Exception, not accepted to be settled wholly within 12 months after the end of the annual reporting period in which the employee render the related service. Means यहाँ expected to be settled wholly within 12 months. अगर वो settle हो जाता है within 12 months, then no possibility, there is no obligation to measure and discounting factors or actuarial assumptions are not required. But there is one exception: if it is not expected to be settled wholly within 12 months after the end of the annual reporting period in which the employee render the related service. It means in that case actuarial assumptions are also required and discounting factor is also required if it is not settled within 12 months. Like for recognition and measurements, employees benefit expenses or assets account debit, that is amount relating to the reporting period. Prepaid expenses means amount relating to the future period. To cash account or bank account if any amount is paid, on to accrued liability if unpaid amount is there, if provisions created is there. So disclosure, disclose amount recognized as an expenses for defined contribution plan. You have to disclose this contribution plan, that is employees benefit expenses, in the financial statement in PL account. And if any contribution made to a key management personals, then Ind AS 24 is required to be followed. There is a separate disclosure requirement as per Ind AS 24 if any amount is contributed to the KMPs. Now, journal entries for defined contribution plan. Any defined contribution plan is accrued, then defined contribution expenses account, that is PL. But as per Ind AS, it will be said as a defined contribution expenses, and if it is not yet paid, it is accrued, then the if liability is created, then it will be defined contribution payable. That payable comes under the head liability, and defined contribution expenses comes under in PL under the head employees benefit expenses. So when it is accrued, the entry will be defined contribution expenses account debit to defined contribution payable. Contribution expenses comes in the PL under employees benefit expenses, and contribution payable comes under liability in the balance sheet. That contribution is a certain percentage that is contributed by the employer as per the statute. Like in PF account, there is said in the statutory requirement that 12% is contributed by the employer. Salary into contribution made by the employer. So that contribution is the defined contribution plan. And if it is paid, then the entry will be that provision which is created by the entity, that in the form of defined contribution payable account debit, that is reversed, and bank account is to be credited. So defined contribution payable account debit to bank account. If it is paid after 12 months, If that contribution is paid after 12 months from the balance sheet date, then it should be recognized at present value. So if that contribution is paid within 12 months, no present value is required, no actuarial gain or loss is there, or no discounting factor is required. An interest cost is charged over the period to unwind the discount. In general, interest cost comes under the head finance cost in the financial statement, but interest cost related to defined contribution plan is related to unwind of the liability. So these costs also comes under the head employees expenses, not under finance cost. So it means that if any contribution is paid or is accrued after 12 months from the balance sheet date, then it should be recognized. It is paid after 12 months, then it is a long term liability, and then if long term liability, then it should be recognized at present value, and interest on that is to be recognized over the period to unwind. Now the journal entries at the end of the period to unwind the discount. If interest का क्या entry होगा, interest account debit, that is PL में जाएगा employees benefit expenses के अंदर में, to defined contribution payable liability. So opening balance of the defined contribution payable into discounting rate. Now rate is to be taken, the entire post employment benefit must be discounted even if the part of the obligation is due within 12 months of the balance sheet date. Attributes benefit to the period of service with discount rate to use for determining the present value under the defined benefit plan. So which discount rate is to be taken? General market yield at the end of the reporting period on the government bond, that is the general rule के हिसाब से we will take the market end of the reporting period on government bond. If that rate is not present, then specific rule is to be taken for currencies over the INR, for which there is a deep market in the high quality corporate bonds with the help of example of provident fund. So in the provident fund, company makes certain amount of contribution. Entity makes the contribution to the provident fund. Employer's contribution, that is, if he contributes 1 lakh for the year 24-25, which is accrued on 31st March 2025, then paid on, if it is accrued on 31st March 2025, that probably if entity contribute to the employees contribution account 1 lakh rupees. So if it is paid on 1st July 2025, that is within 12 months, due within 1 year, within 12 months, that is short term benefits. And if it is paid on 1st April 2026, that is the long term, due beyond 1 year, after 12 months of the service, then we will compute that expenses at a present value. And in that case, if it is due within 1 year, that is within 12 months, then discounting factor is not required. Just we will pass an entry provident fund expenses by 1 lakh to provident fund payable, and at the time of payment we will make the entry PF payable account 1 lakh to bank. PF is just we are considering the example. Instead of PF in the as per Indes, it will be called as a defined contribution expenses in Indes terms, and PF payable के जगह पे आप defined contribution liability बोलोगे as per Indes terms. Indes के terms के हिसाब से आप PF entry both is correct, but the terms are different. But the language, the word is different, but the entry, if you pass the entry PF expense to PF payable, that is also correct, and defined contribution expenses to defined contribution liability, that is also correct. But these terms, defined contribution expenses to defined contribution liability, is terms related to Indes 9. If it is accrued unpaid beyond 12 months, Then the compounding factor is required and it is recognized at a present value. Then PF expense, that is PF expenses account debit to PF payable. 1 लाख को आप डिस्काउंटिंग फैक्टर कर दीजिए 1 divided by 1.10 because it is payable after 1 year, that is on 1st April 2026 for 1 year. So आपका expenses आएगा 90,909 एंड इसमें आपको रिकॉग्नाइज करना पड़ेगा इंटरेस्ट कॉस्ट टू अनवाइंड दैट लायबिलिटी. सो इंटरेस्ट कॉस्ट अकाउंट डेबिट, जो भी ओपनिंग बैलेंस है उसका 10%. सो इन दिस केस ओपनिंग बैलेंस इज 90,909 into 10%. So 9,090.90 to pay PF payable. So if the liability increase, the PF payable becomes 1 lakh because the expenses to PF payable and interest cost to PF payable. So liability increase from 90,000 to 1 lakh. So by including the interest, so PF payable becomes 1 lakh. And now at the time of payment, you will make the full payment, that is 1 lakh. So PF payable account debit 1 lakh to bank. So in this way the accounting is to be done if it is paid within 12 months and if it is paid after 12 months. This is related to defined contribution plan. Now defined benefits plan. We are discussing about the defined benefits plan. Defined benefits plan, if an employee, suppose if an employee join an entity on 1st April 2016, he starts his employment and he retires on 31st March 2015. Then if he provide the services for a period of 34 years to the organization, he will get that benefit the entity will provide related to defined benefit plans. So regular investment in plan assets, after 34 years investment, he will get the investment amount plus return on plan assets, provide cash to pay retirement benefits after 34 years. So if the employee stays in the organization for a period of 34 years, he will get the retirement benefit. That retirement benefit is based on the certain uncertainties. The entity will make the provision of that benefit of the employees which is based on the high level of uncertainties. High degree of estimation is involved. If the period is long for the employment, there the uncertainties involved high degree of estimations. Like there is certain problems arises while calculating the benefit given to the employee. What probabilities are there? Will the employee continue for 34 years with the company? There is a labor attrition. Possibility is there, but the chances of probability is less. Because whether the employee will stay for 34 years in the same organization, will the employee leave for 34 years? Mortality is also one of the reason. Then another reason, will the employee will physically fit to work for 34 years? That is the reason of disability. Discounting rate to be used to discount liability at present. Discounting rate, the market, the benefit level borne by the company plus future salary increase. Whether the salary will be, what was the final drawn salary, whether the salary will increase or decrease, what benefits is given by the entity to the employee in future. So tax payable on the income tax earned by the plan assets. What taxes, what was the rate of the taxes? It is also not certain. So whether various other estimations to be made while calculating the benefit given to the employee for a longer period. There are high level of uncertainties involved while calculating benefits given to the employee for long terms. So there are high level of uncertainties if the period are such a long period, like if a period is like 20 years or more, 30 years or more. In our example, there is a 34 years. It's such a long period, the estimation, high level of estimation is required in order to calculate the present value of the obligation which is paid after 34 years if the after the retirement of the employee. Now, accounting, there are four steps to determine the defined benefit plan, that is the deficit or surplus. First step is deficit. Determine the deficit and surplus. How to recognize that in the balance sheet. How to recognize which cost is to be recognized in the statement of profit and loss account, and what how to determine or measure to the OCI, what amount is to be disclosed in the OCI, what amount is to be disclosed in the profit and loss account, and what amount is to be disclosed in the balance sheet. So if any amount like ultimate cost of benefits, that is the current service cost, discounted it to determine the present value of the defined benefit obligation. Determine the fair value of the plan assets. So firstly we will determine the obligation, and we will determine the fair value of the plan assets. If there is any deficit or surplus, so we have to disclose in this way the present value of defined benefit obligation less fair value of the plan assets. Now, how to recognize in the balance sheet? The deficit or surplus should be adjusted for any effects of limiting a non-defined benefit assets to the asset ceilings. So asset ceiling is that ceiling up to that amount you should use. After that you will not able to use that amount. The following amount needs to be determined, that is current service cost. If any amount paid related to past service cost, if any gain and loss on settlement is there, net interest on net defined by benefit liabilities, this is to be recognized in PL. And in OCI, what it is to be disclosed, remeasurements to a net defined benefit liability, that is actuarial gain or loss. If any actuarial gain or loss is there, which is due to the return on plan assets, excluding the net interest on defined benefit liability. If any change in the effects of the asset ceilings, excluding net interest on the net defined benefit liability, that is to be disclosed in the OCI. If actuarial gain is there, actuarial loss is there, it should be disclosed under OCI. If the amount is related to current service cost, past service cost, any gain and loss on that settlements, any interest, that is to be recognized in PL. And if there is a deficit or surplus which is related to the effect of defined benefit assets or defined due to the ceiling, asset ceiling, it should be recognized in the balance sheet. These are the terms which we will discuss in the later part. What was the terms which we will disclose? What is current service cost? What is past service cost? What is actuarial gain or loss? What is the ultimate cost, or how to calculate, that we will discuss in the later part of the discussion. We will compute the ultimate cost of benefits to the entity. What are the requirements? Multiple variables are required, that is the final salary, how much employees are there, employees turnover and the mortality rate, investment earning on the plan assets in case of funded plan. If the plan is funded, then how much investment we will do to get that to pay off that liability, medical cost trends and other variables. These are the variables which will check why there is high degree of uncertainty, uncertainties in order to calculate the ultimate cost of the benefit. What are the uncertainties? Cannot estimate the amount as easily as it is done, say in case of depreciation, due to uncertainties of each of the multiple variables and is involved, because the entity does not know what was the final salary of the employee to which it calculate today, what was the employee's turnover in that way, that whether employee will present for 34 years in the organization, whether that investment is sufficient to pay off the liability, what was the physical condition of the employee, and other variable factors. So it is not easy to calculate. Just like depreciation, there is high degree of uncertainties involved to estimate the exact cost related to the employee which is to be paid in future. So cannot estimate the amount as easily as it is done. Say in case of depreciation due to uncertainties of each of the multiple variables involved. Long period due to that whether that employee is fit for the organization to work. That is also there is also an uncertainty. So long period of time whether the organization works properly or not, that is also the uncertainties involved. So benefits are usually paid after several years because of that, because the reason is period is very high with the transaction horizon extending to a few decades. That is the also the reason, because the period are very high, lots of uncertainties involved in that. Thus, the objective is accounting for these benefits as they accrue, including the impact of uncertainties in the amount accounted. So, the objective of these standard, जैसे आपने सर्विस दिया accrue हुआ आप accounting कर लीजिए, प्लस उस पे unwinding uncertainties का effect भी डाल दीजिए. So, how to achieve the objectives? By taking the help of actuarial valuation method, by attributing benefits to the period of services, and make actuarial assumptions. So making an assumptions and applying the actuarial valuation methods, the entity will achieve the objective. Computing the ultimate cost of benefits to the entity, how to compute? By actuarial valuation method. Which valuation method? By using the projected unit cost method, which is also known as accrued benefit method, prorated, that is on service or benefit or year of service methods. Now to determine the present value of defined obligation, related service cost or past service cost where applicable. The entity has to determine the present value of by using the actuarial method, that is the projected unit cost method, to determine the present value of the obligation, to determine the related service cost, to determine the past service cost. What is the present value of defined obligation? Present value of defined obligation is that obligation which is paid by the entity after a period of 10 years or after a period of 15 years, which is to be discounted by the entity and recognized in its pay, which is paid after 10 years. And related service cost is which is to be recognized at present value today, that is the related service cost, and on which the unwinding effect is to be given in the form of interest. And past service cost, if any changes due to wage revision, then it is not to be recognized on retrospective basis, is to be recognized on a prospective basis. So that expenses is related to past service cost. Now defined obligation, how to calculate the defined obligation? What is the present value of the obligation? That is, these are the post-employment benefits under which the entity has obligation to pay the agreed benefit directly to the employee. Post-employment in any case, for example, a gratuity. Means defined benefit plan is that plan we had discussed about contribution plan, then defined benefit plan is that plan that is also a post-employment benefit which is paid by the entity directly by the employer. There is no third party is present. That obligation is on the entity to pay off the certain employer after their retirement or after post-employment in the form of gratuity, in the form of superannuation. This is the plan other than defined contribution plan. It is recognized over the period of services by employee for which benefit will be paid after his employment. Entity's obligation is to provide the agreed benefit to the current and the former employee. Actuarial risk and investment risk falls on the entity in this case. In this case, there is no employee's risk. There is the risk of the employer, both actuarial and investment risk. In defined benefit plan, there is accounting is complex and actuarial assumptions and discounting factor is also used. But in contribution accounting, if there is 1 year, no complex accounting, straightforward accounting is to be used, and actuarial assumption and discounting factor is not used except if it is paid after 12 months. Now, steps to be followed for accounting of defined benefit plan. What steps there are? so many steps which we will discuss step by step. In step 1, we will calculate the defined benefit obligation. How to calculate the defined benefit obligation? First, the employer will find out the total benefit paid to the employee after employment. After post employment, what was the total benefit? Suppose 100 employees are there. How many employees stay in the organization? How many employees will leave the organization? What was the probability that the employee will leave for that much period? What was the probability that the discounting factor or the final drawn salary is similar to that which on which the service is accrued? So all the possibilities is to be taken into consideration while computing the total benefits to be paid to the employee post employment, for which the present value is to be done. So to firstly determine the total benefits to be paid to the employee post employment. How to determine benefits in percentage? How much benefits is to be given in whether 12% of the expected final salary, or 15% or 20%? What was the benefit in percentage is to be determined. Then expect what was the current salary of the employee, on which increment is to be calculated to determine the expected final drawn salary. Expected final drawn salary means salary at the time of payment of gratuity. What was the final drawn salary when ultimately the employee resigned the organization after 10 years, after 15 years? You don't know even the period, but you have to make the provision for that, key what benefit is given by the organization on the expected final drawn salary into number of year of service they present in the policy of an organization to increase the salary of employee in every 2 years or in every 3 years by 10%. So he will increase by making the provision, by increasing the current drawn salary with the increment rate. He will find out the entity will find out the expected final drawn salary after 5 years into benefit given by the entity in percentage into number of year of service. This concept is explained with the help of example. Suppose entities provide 1% gratuity. 1% gratuity to these employees on final drawn salary. Amount of salary paid by the entity to Mr. X is 20 lakhs. Expected growth rate in salary in each year is 10%, and expected employment period is 5 years. Here everything is uncertain, but estimated that employee increment is given 10%, and expected that employee will stay in organization for 5 years, and gratuity is paid at the rate 1%. So gratuity payable become 1%, that is benefit given by the organization into expected final drawn salary means whatever the current salary is the 20 lakhs of Mr. X, and increment every year is 10%. So it will be 20 lakhs is multiplied by 10%, or increased by 10% to the power 4, because 4 times the salary will increase. So each year means first year salary is 20 lakhs, second year is increased by 10%, then third year, then fourth year, then fifth year. Means 4 times the salary will increase. So 1% into 20 lakhs into 1.1.0 to the power 4, because 4 times it will increase into number of expected period, that is 5 years. So 1% into 29 lakhs 28,200 into 5, so it becomes 1,46,410. That is the gratuity payable by the entity after 5 years to the employee who stay in the organization for 5 years at the rate 1% on final drawn salary. So these expenses is paid after 5 years, but it accrued over the period of 5 years. Though it is paid after 5 years, but it accrued over the period of 5 years, because the as and when the employee provide the services to the entity, it benefits accrues, and it should be recognized in the books as liability. But when it is paid, it will be reversed. Now benefit attributed. Now we have to determine In first step we determine total obligation paid to the employee after 5 years. Now each year the service is attributed, total benefits to be paid to the employee post employment becomes 1,46,410 divided by number of year of service, 5 years. So gratuity each year become 1,46,410 divided by 5, so it becomes 29,282 per year expenses, but it is booked at present value. So we have to make it at present value. So gratuity each year is 1,46,410 divided by 5, so it becomes 29,282 per year. एक्सपेंसेस हो गया, हर साल का एक्सपेंसेस हो गया 29,282. अब इसको पुल करके उसको प्रेजेंट वैल्यू पे आपको रिकॉग्नाइज करना पड़ेगा इन द बुक. सो हाउ टू determine it at a present value? Compute the present value of expenses recognized each year. So 5 years of service, expense accrued each year is 29,282 in each year. Then discounting factor is at the rate 10%, which is given because these 29,282 is paid after how many years? So it will be pulled by fourth year discounting factor. Why it is pulled? Because fifth year services is no is at present value. Oh, it itself is at present value, so no discounting factor is required. But 290, the fourth year expected accrued expenses is to be pulled for 1 year, so it is discounted by 1 year. We have to make a reverse calculation. Reverse discounting factor is to be required. So what discounting factor is at the year 5? If we would divide 1 divided by 1.10 for 5 times, the discounting factor comes 0.683. So the present value becomes 20,000. Means in only in these Indias reverse discounting factor is used. So in these cases we have to discount in the reverse way. Then the present value of that is multiplied by discounting factor to bring out that present value. So 29,282 into the discounting factor, that is 0.683013, so it becomes 20,000. Now current service cost. What is the current service cost? The service recognized in the books at present value of the benefit attributed to that year. Means in this case the current service cost is the gratuity expenses account debit by 20,000 in year 1 to gratuity payable, that is defined benefit obligation account debit to defined benefit payable. मीन्स ग्रेचुटी एक्सपेंसेस की जगह आप करेंट सर्विस कॉस्ट दोगे जो कि पीएल में जाएगा एम्प्लॉई बेनिफिट एक्सपेंसेस के अंडर में, और ग्रेचुटी पेएबल की जगह आप डिफाइंड बेनिफिट ऑब्लिगेशन दोगे जो कि जाएगा लायबिलिटी के अंदर. सो जनरल एंट्री बिकम्स current service cost instead of gratuity expense. Normal way we can pass an entry in this way: gratuity expenses account debit to gratuity payable as AS terms, but in India's terms we will current service cost instead of gratuity expenses, which comes under the head employees benefit in PL, to define benefit obligation, which comes in the balance sheet as liability. Now on that current service cost, interest is to be charged. Unwinding the liability. Charge interest cost at each year end on the opening balance of defined benefit obligation to unwind the discount, because current service cost is the defined benefit expenses is recognized each year at present value. So we have to prepare the amortization table year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opening balance, in opening there is a 0 in year 1. Interest will be 0 because on 0 there is no interest. But the expenses booked in year 1 is 20,000. So closing becomes 20,000. Opening plus interest plus expense book becomes 20,000. Now the closing which is in year 1 becomes the opening in year 2, that is 20,000, on which the interest is at the rate 10%. So it becomes 20,000 into 10%. So it becomes 2,000. And expenses booked in this year is at the present value which we had calculated in here, that is 22,000. So 20 plus 2, that is 22, plus 22, that is 44,000 is the closing balance. That closing balance again become the opening balance in year 3. Interest is calculated on that opening balance at the rate 10%. So 44,000 into 10%, so it becomes 4,400. Expense booked in year 3 becomes, which we had calculated earlier, that is in these 24,200. So these 24,200 expense booked. So 44,000 plus 4,400 plus 24,200, it becomes 72,600. In the same way, we will calculate in year 5. The closing balance become 1,46,410, which we had calculated in our step 1. That is, in this calculation, we had determined the total benefit payable to the employee after 5 years, that is 1,46,400. So, how to pass the interest cost in? Because in year 1 there is no interest cost. In year 2, the interest is to be charged on the opening balance, that is interest cost account debit by 2,000 to define benefit obligation liability, that is 2,000. ओपनिंग बैलेंस पे आप 10% कैलकुलेट करोगे इंटरेस्ट का. सो ईयर 1 में तो कोई इंटरेस्ट था नहीं, बिकॉज ओपनिंग बैलेंस था नहीं. ईयर 2 में ओपनिंग बैलेंस आया, उस पे इंटरेस्ट करोगे. तो ईयर 2, ईयर 3, ईयर 4, ईयर 5 आपका इंटरेस्ट. In the same way, you will pass the general entry. So, how actuarial gain and loss arises related to defined benefit obligation? Firstly, we will discuss the theory related to computing the ultimate cost of benefit to the, that is actuarial assumption, how due to demographic assumptions and financial assumptions, an entity's base estimates of variable that will determine the ultimate cost of providing post-employment benefits. So due to demographic assumptions and financial assumptions, what is demographic assumptions? These assumptions are taken by the entity in order to calculate the ultimate cost of benefits given to the employee after 5 years, after 10 years. So what demographic assumption is to be taken? Whether the employee will stay in the organization, what his personal details is to be taken at the time of filling the HR form. So personal details means his health conditions, his whether he is single or married. If married, he will stay in the same organization or in the same area. Means all the personal details is to be taken by the entity in order to calculate the demographic assumptions, due to which the financial assumptions is also be changed. Employee marry in any other city, so the possibility is that the employee will leave the organization if he get married. The employee is having a kids or not, possibility is there he will remain continue in the organization or not. It's related to the future characteristics of current and former employees who are eligible for benefits. They deal with the matters like mortality rate during and after employment. During the employment, what was the condition of the employee, and time to time health checkup is to be done by the entity. What was the health issues, if any health issues is there or not. During and after employment, rate of employees turnover, disabilities and early retirement. Then proportion of plan members with dependent eligibles for benefits, proportion of plan members who will select each form of payment option available under the plan terms, then claim rates under medical plans. So these are the assumptions taken by the entity while calculating the benefits or obligations given while making the provision of obligation given to the employer. Can actuarial assumption change over time? Obviously, yes. Expected adjustment effect of the change in actuarial assumption may change. Suppose there is an assumption that employee will stay in the organization for 5 years, but due to some uncertain situation, employee has to leave. So that affects the actuarial assumption, and it will change, and it also adjusts affect the financial assumption considered by the entity. Should be based on market expectation at the end of the reporting period for the period over which the obligation are to be settled. They deal with the final salary of the employee, the interest rate on the employee, future salary and benefit levels, future medical cost including claims, handling cost, tax payables by the plan on contribution related to the service before the reporting date. So these are the financial assumptions. Due to the market, the effect of change arises due to the market impact, and demographic assumption is due to the personal information of the now actuarial gain or loss arises due to the change in the recognize annual gain or loss at each year end on defined or benefit plan obligation as calculated by the actuary due to the change in the financial or demographic assumption. If there is a change due to financial or demographic assumption of the employee, if any gain or loss arises at the end of the obligation or due to the experience variance like estimates of the future expected final down salary or number of year of service or discounting. Due to that, if any changes arises on the obligation, defined benefit obligation, that will be called as actuarial gain or loss, which is also recognized. So what was the journal entry is required to be passed if actuarial loss is incurred. Actuarial loss is incurred if there is an increase in the obligation. If liability increase, then loss is to be booked. If liability decrease, then profit is to be booked. In case if there is an actuarial loss, loss is due to the increase in the defined benefit obligation, then actuarial loss account debit, which comes under the OCI, not under PL. Actuarial gain and loss comes under OCI, and that if there is a gain, that is decrease in defined benefit obligation, then the journal entry will be defined benefit obligation account debit to actuarial gain. These actuarial gains comes under OCI, NR, and these obligation comes under the liability in balance sheet. If there is a change in estimates means due to which salary increase. If there is a wage revision, salary revision, and this is due to the change in estimate, this increase in the salary arises an increase in actuarial loss. So that loss is due to and it is called as a change in estimate. So the entry will be actuarial loss account debit to defined benefit obligation, and the actuarial loss comes under OCI. Now we will discuss the past service cost. Past service cost, what is the meaning of past service cost? Recognize past service cost on defined benefit obligation due to change in defined benefit plan announced by the entity, that is changing benefit percentage in plan. Means if there is a change in plan, due to which the service cost, past service cost change, the effect of these change is given in books not retrospectively but prospectively, and due to which actuarial gain or loss arises, the effect is to be given prospectively, not retrospectively. So journal entries on change in defined benefit obligation: if change in plan assets results in additional benefits to the employee. If due to the change in plan assets resulted in the if any additional benefits given to the employee, so increase in benefits in plan, so past service cost account debit to defined benefit obligation account. And if the change results in the decrease in the additional benefits to the employee, then there is a decrease in benefit plan, that is defined benefit obligation account debit to past service cost. This past service cost comes under the head PL, employee benefit expenses, and obligation comes under the balance sheet at liability side. So payment of benefits to the employee: recognize payment of benefits to the employee from defined benefit obligation on the date of payment to the employee post expense. General entry at the time of payment: what entry is to be passed? Defined benefit obligation account debit to bank if payment is made. On the time of accrual, it is to be recognized as liability, but at the time of payment, that liability which is recognized is reversed and bank account is to be credited. Now we will discuss about the curtailments and settlements. What is curtailment and what is settlement in defined benefit obligation? If the entity curtails the benefit of employee under a defined benefit plan and settle it before the maturity, then recognize the curtailment transaction with settlement gain or loss on that date. It means that curtailment means the entity created a liability, but due to some reason, due to the loss in the organization, the entity cancel the obligation which is created earlier. The entry will be at the time of curtailment. Curtailment means entity itself, due to recession in the organization, curtail the employees obligation. So in that case the entry will be defined, the obligation which is created earlier is reversed by making the payment or by settling with that. Settlement means an entity settle the liability before maturity. Suppose an entity has a continuous loss in their organization, so they won't be able to pay the obligation to the employee. In that case they will curtail and settle the liability before maturity. So in that case the defined benefit obligation created earlier in the name of the employee is to be reversed and settled at a lower than the amount is promised to pay to the employee. Means in that case they will settle the liability at a lower price. If the obligation is settled with the employee, that is reduction in the defined benefit obligation due to curtailment, or if there is a loss, if payment for settlement of curtailment in benefits, so defined benefit obligation to bank, if loss is there, loss on settlement, then it will be debited. If gain on settlement is there, then it will be credited. So defined benefit obligation account debit, reduction in defined benefit obligation due to curtailment, loss on settlement, balancing figure to bank, payment for settlement of curtailment in benefits to gain on settlement. Means whatever the obligation created earlier is reversed, and whatever the payment is made to the employee is to be created by bank account, and the difference between the obligation created and the amount paid is the if there is a gain on settlement, that it will be credited, and if a loss on settlement, then it will be debited by balancing figure. So this is the curtailment and settlement. Now, the presentation, how to present the calculation of closing balance of defined benefit obligation at each year. By preparing a ledger account. Ledger account is one of the way to present the obligation, and another way in the statement form. We will discuss both the application, both the presentation in by creating a defined benefit obligation liability in ledger form. We have to whatever the entry we have to pass, we have to debit and credit that by balancing figure, that is balancing by balance brought down. Opening balance is to be created. If actuarial gain is there, then it should be debited in the ledger account of defined benefit obligation. If actuarial loss is there, it should be credited. If the past service cost means a reduction in the benefit due to loss, reduction in the benefit due to profits. So it in the past service cost, to past service cost is to be debited, and if there is a additional benefit, mean liability increase, then it should be credited by past service cost. If payment is made related to the benefit, then defined benefit obligation to bank. If settlement of payment is done, then gain on settlement. If profit is there, gain on settlement to bank. If payment for settlement is made due to curtailment, and if interest is to be if interest cost is there, current service cost on which interest is to be charged, it should be credited. Actuarial loss is there, it should be credited. Past service cost, if any additional benefit is liability increase, then it should be credited. If loss on settlement is there, it should be credited. Means at the time of settlement the loss incurred to the organization, then it should be credited. So this is the ledger is created for defined benefit obligation, and in statement form also we can prepare the both the way we can present the obligation, that is particulars opening balance of defined benefit obligation. We should add the current service cost, we should add the interest cost, we should add the actuarial loss, we should reduce the actuarial gain, we should add the past service cost, if payment or benefit to the employee post employment is reduction in the defined benefit due to curtailment, and whatever left out is the closing balance of the defined benefit obligation. After adjusting all this, the closing balance of defined benefit is comes out. Thanking you for watching my video. If you like, please share, subscribe.